Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the First Minister backs calls for the Belfast hip-hop group Kneecap to be removed from this year's Transmit Festival. It comes after footage emerged of a concert where one of the group appears to tell the audience to kill their local MP.
There is no way that is acceptable. It's not acceptable in a debate about free speech. It's just completely beyond the pale.
Also on tonight's programme, Scotland's doctors say a £290 million funding gap for GPs threatens the future of the NHS.
On the moorland, it just spread really fast.
Conservationists say a wildfire on the Isle of Arran has wiped out 27,000 trees and a decade of work.
Coming up in the sport, as Celtic secure their 13th league title in 14 seasons, we take a look at what has delivered such domestic dominance for the Parkhead club.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Monday's programme. You may or may not have heard of them, but the Belfast rappers Kneecap are incredibly popular and they're due to play the Transmit Music Festival in Glasgow this summer. Except now there are calls for their appearance to be pulled after videos of the group emerged appearing to show them saying the only good Tory is a dead Tory and kill your local MP. And now the First Minister has backed the calls for the group's set to be axed, saying they've crossed the line. With more, here's our arts correspondent, Polly McLean.
There are 80,000 native Irish speakers in Ireland.
Ní fac, I chéad gan tanga ach la náisiún.
Three of us have become rappers.
You might know the words, but you don't understand the language.
Three friends in Northern Ireland who write songs about the place where they grew up. So far, so ordinary, but not for Kneecap. The band take their name from the Troubles and use their native Gaelic to campaign for Irish independence. They have opinions on everything and nothing is out of bounds. But footage has emerged of a concert in 2023 when one of the band appears to encourage the crowd to kill their local MP. It's been condemned by a number of people, including Katie Amos, whose father David was murdered in his constituency office.
My dad did absolutely nothing wrong. He worked for 38 years to support people in his local community, people of all nationalities, all races, all religions, all creeds, all colours, and he was killed. So to hear people demanding that other MPs lose their life because they vote a certain way is just heartbreaking, and it left me deeply, deeply upset, to say the least.
Concern has now turned to Transmit, the Glasgow festival the band are due to play in July. Lord Walney, who previously advised the UK government on political violence and disruption, is calling for the band to be dropped.
There is a real danger that that kind of rhetoric can indeed incite people towards violence. So I think there is now a very strong case for, at whatever level it takes, whether it is the local council or at the Scottish government level, or ultimately for the Home Secretary to step in at a UK level.
And this afternoon, the First Minister said he agreed.
I think that makes it incredibly difficult for a band like Kneecap to perform at Transmit, because I think they have crossed a line, to be honest, and it would be unacceptable to me for the band to perform on such a stage, given the fact that their comments are so beyond the pale.
Similar calls have been made over the band's planned appearance at Glastonbury, and so far neither festival has responded. As to the band, their only comment was in a statement after a recent US festival appearance, in which they said the reason Kneecap are being targeted is because we're telling the truth, and our audience is growing. Polly McLean, Reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
GPs are warning a £290 million funding gap threatens the future of the NHS. The British Medical Association of Scotland says GPs' share of the health service budget has fallen every year against inflation since 2008. The union says it won't rule out industrial action if the government does not increase investment. The Scottish Government argue it's put more money into general practice. Our health correspondent Lisa Summers reports.
Another busy day with this GP practice under pressure, but doctors say things could get even worse. Last month we reported that family doctors could not afford to recruit new GPs because finances were so tight.
The family are just coming in for that. Okay, thanks, Kelly.
Now their union says it won't rule out industrial action if the government doesn't address funding shortfalls.
I think nothing is off the table. Without general practice, the NHS cannot exist.
The number of whole-time equivalent GPs in Scotland has been falling, while the number of patients is on the rise. Most GPs in Scotland are self-employed. They operate small businesses and they employ and pay the wages of their staff, and in return they're paid a fee for every patient that's registered with them. But they say demand has risen significantly with more people living longer with more complex medical conditions, and finances are so tight that they simply cannot afford to take on any more GPs to meet the needs of their patients. The whole of the NHS is under pressure with competition for resources, but the government says they are investing more in community healthcare.
We need to reform services. The record £21.7 billion that's going into health and social care services is about doing just that, making sure that we're delivering on health and social care services for the people of Scotland and making sure that they can see tangible improvements in the way that that's delivered.
The BMA says giving more funding directly to GPs would make a huge difference.
Patients would see a transformative change in general practice and the amount of services that they could get at their local practice. It would be completely game-changing and allow us to focus on a much more preventative healthcare model rather than the one we have just now, which is constantly firefighting.
Doctors say if the government is serious about fixing the NHS, it has to start with our GPs. Lisa Summers reporting, Scotland, Midlothian.
To some of the day's other stories now. And police are appealing for information after a fatal crash during yesterday's ATAP Loch Ness cycle race in Inverness. The collision involving one of the cyclists and a BMW 120M Sport took place on Island Bank Road next to the event area at around noon. Emergency services attended and the 49-year-old male cyclist was taken to Breakmore Hospital where he died a short time later. The male driver and female passenger of the car weren't injured. Inquiries are ongoing. A 14-year-old boy has been arrested in connection with a fire at a derelict building in Glasgow. Emergency services were called to the incident on Wardy Road in the Easterhouse area of the city yesterday afternoon. There are no reported injuries. Police say the boy will be reported to the authorities. Archaeologists have discovered ancient tools which they believe show evidence of one of the earliest human populations in Scotland. The stone tool heads are believed to be around 11,000 years old, dating back to a period known as the Late Upper Paleolithic. The discovery was made at an undisclosed location on the Isle of Skye. A union has threatened legal action against Stagecoach after it cancelled bus drivers' holiday days during planned strikes. Unite union members in the south and west of Scotland are set to walk out next month in a dispute over pay. Well, our transport correspondent David Henderson joins us now. Hannah has been following this story. This dispute shows little sign of being resolved, David.
Well, it looks that way, Laura. Stagecoach can't reach agreement on a pay deal with about 500 of its drivers. The company is offering a 4% pay deal this year to drivers who operate out of depots around the south and west of Scotland, from Ayr round to Dumfries. And the Unite Union says that this offer is too low and unacceptable. The drivers agree with that and have voted for strike action. So the union has organised a series of strike dates, 7 in all, beginning on Friday, running through the month of May. Odd days here and there. And today the company has given a surprise response by cancelling all holiday leave for those drivers during this strike period. Stagecoach say the move was needed because of increasing staff sickness levels and to provide for what they call dependable levels of service to customers.
So what's the union response been to that?
Well, the Unite Union is not impressed. They say this is a major escalation to the dispute. They say it will force drivers en masse to have to cancel holidays that they've booked and paid for over the course of months. They say it will mean drivers will have to cancel other important plans like hospital appointments, and they're not leaving it there. They say they think it is illegal, and they're threatening to take Stagecoach to court to get an interim interdict to block this move. Now, talks have been taking place about this stumbling block throughout the course of today. No sign of a breakthrough at this point. So this dispute is really ramping up just 4 days before the first strike date.
Certainly sounds like one to keep an eye on. Thank you, David. The First Minister says it's important to wait for formal, definitive advice from the UK's equalities watchdog when it comes to implementing the Supreme Court's recent ruling on the definition of a woman. The Equalities and Human Rights Commission published interim guidance on Friday, but John Swinney refused to say whether public bodies in Scotland should now put it into practice. Well, our political correspondent Lindsay Bewes is in Dundee for us this evening. Lindsay, we got this initial interim guidance from the Commission on Friday. What's the First Minister said about it?
Yeah, Laura, it's the job of the Commission to guide organisations and businesses on implementing that Supreme Court ruling that a woman is defined by biological sex when it comes to equality law. It's working on a new code of practice due to be signed off by UK ministers. But on Friday evening, it produced this interim guidance that it said was aimed at answering some of the many questions people had around this ruling and to highlight its main consequences. Now, that interim guidance says that trans people should use the single-sex services and facilities in accordance with their biological sex. It also says that trans people shouldn't be left without any access to facilities at all. Now, responding to that today at the Scottish Trades Union Congress here in Dundee, the First Minister, John Swinney, refused to say that public bodies in Scotland should now use that interim guidance to implement the Supreme Court's judgment. He said instead it was important to wait for that formal guidance coming from the Commission. That's not expected until later in the summer. He said that would provide that legal clarity. I think, however, that is going to be a source of frustration for those who want to see public bodies funded by the Scottish Government start to make changes to comply with the Supreme Court's findings.
OK, Lindsay in Dundee, thank you. And we have been discussing this story on Scotcast, BBC Scotland's news podcast. I've been talking to two legal experts, one of them an employment lawyer, on what the Supreme Court's ruling means in practice and some of the issues it might present for businesses. That is Scotcast on BBC Sounds and here on BBC One tonight. Now, after a recent spate of wildfires across Scotland, a new warning of a very high to extreme risk of blazes is coming into force. Our reporter Gillian Sharp can join us now. Gillian, tell us what we know then.
Well, as we understand, temperatures are expected to rise over the next few days, and with that predicted sunshine, something we can all, of course, look forward to, comes that increased wildfire risk. Now, that's for northeast, central and southern Scotland from today until Sunday. The extreme part of the warning runs from Wednesday until Saturday. Now, across Scotland, people are being urged not to light outdoor fires during the whole of that period. Wildfires do have the potential, once they're lit, to burn for days, and that can have a devastating impact on wildlife, land, and really have a bad effect on local communities too. We've seen wildfires, as you say, across Scotland in recent times. Now, part of the issue is that there's a lot of very dry vegetation around, and that acts as fuel. The fire service says people can really change what happens here, and they're calling on people to act responsibly, especially over the coming days.
OK, Gillian, thank you. Well, with that new warning in mind, a reflection on some of the damage wildfires can do. Conservationists say one on the Isle of Arran has wiped out a decade of work. They've been trying to bring native trees back to the island, a project which suffered a huge blow earlier this month when a wildfire destroyed 27,000 trees. Hope Webb has more.
It's been just over 2 weeks since a significant wildfire ripped through the Glenrosa area on Arran, and Senior Ranger for the island Kate Sampson is driving me through the scorched valley.
It was then just shooting up the hill really fast because of the dry conditions and the wind. And I happened to meet the local sergeant there, and then from then on in, it was disaster. It was disaster management.
Kate, volunteers and firefighters battled the blaze for 3 days straight, but it managed to claim 27,000 trees, and with it 10 years of conservation work to reintroduce native tree species to the area.
The fire actually started just on the edge of the forestry there. The moorland was so tinder dry, and we had so much dead bracken and dead Molinia grass that on the moorland it just spread really fast across the moorland, and there was not a lot we could do to stop it.
Initial investigations point to the fire being started by a discarded glass bottle, but the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service hasn't confirmed the cause. At the time, it was just one of several wildfires burning across Scotland.
This wildfire is what we would class a significant wildfire. Over the wildfire warning period, our control rooms received over 5,000 calls. Over 1,000 of them were for grassland and wildfire call-outs, with 19 of them in the significant category.
Just under 10 miles away is Arran Animal Rescue Centre. Here, Diane takes in injured and abandoned animals. Hundreds of reptiles were lost in the blaze, and Diane is worried for the future.
If we lose what we've got, that's it. You know, nothing's coming in to replace it. Some of the birds that we're getting back in now, some of the birds of prey, if they've nothing to eat, they're not going to stay. The animals were here before we were, so I think we should fit in with them, not them fit in with us.
Back at Glenrosa, despite the obvious devastation, there are still signs of hope. Just this weekend, volunteers planted 6,000 new trees in the valley.
This is a tree that we've just planted since the fire, and it's actually an Arran whitebeam, you can see here. And it's one of the rarest trees in the world, and it's trees we only have on Arran. And part of our conservation project is to actually keep these and restore these in the landscape. So this is our first tree of hope and our first replanting of this area.
Hope Webb with that report from Arran. OK, let's get tonight's sport now with Lewis and title celebrations.
Absolutely, that stage of the season, Laura, and individual gongs starting to be talked about as well. Thanks very much. Good evening there. Well, Celtic captain Callum McGregor says Sunday's league match against Rangers at Ibrox is the ideal game for the champions to put things right after losing to their rivals the last time they met. Celtic thumped Dundee United 5-0 at Tannadice on Saturday to clinch their 4th consecutive Premiership title. But such is their winning mentality. McGregor, a PFA Player of the Year nominee, along with teammates Daisen Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn and Dundee's Simon Murray, wants a bit of Old Firm revenge and to maintain standards ahead of the Scottish Cup final against Aberdeen on the 24th of May.
We've actually got 4 really good games still to go, plus the cup final, so that'll keep us focused and motivated and want to arrive into the cup final in the best possible way. So we can enjoy being champions, but obviously we know what's riding on the game at the weekend as well. We want to put it right after what happened in the last one. So yeah, it's the perfect game for us, really.
Well, Celtic's latest title underlines their recent domination of the Scottish game. In fact, a generation of football fans in this country have known nothing else. So just what are the main factors that have led to their supremacy in the last couple of decades, and can it continue? Our sports news correspondent Chris McLaughlin has been taking a look.
April 2012, Celtic champions for the first time in 4 years. Few would have predicted that it would be the start of a run that would take them to 13 titles in 14 seasons.
Even here, they couldn't really have predicted what was to come. Yes, rivals Rangers were heading for administration and ultimately liquidation, but Celtic's dominance of the Scottish game has been unprecedented. So, what have been the key factors?
In those 14 years, only 4 men have led from the dugout. 2 spells for Brendan Rodgers and Neil Lennon, yes, but it's led to stability on the pitch.
Chosen good managers, they stuck with it quite well.
they've not panicked at any time, because there have been a few times you thought, well, it's not gone that well, maybe in European football, and they might have panicked a little bit, but they generally didn't do that. So there's been a kind of continuity, and even between managers sometimes, there's been a feeling of continuity as well.
Off the pitch, the results have been just as impressive, only posting a loss in 2 of the 14 seasons in question, and one of those was during a global pandemic. One key part of their financial success has been in player trading. The sale of Matt O'Reilly and Jota, for example, for £25 million, Kieran Tierney for £23 million. In fact, Celtic have made a total player trading profit over 14 seasons of over £50 million.
They have had relatively modest wage bills, certainly by comparison to south of the border, but the wages compared to the rest of Scottish football are normally in the region of at least 10 times the likes of St Mirren and Ross County and St Johnstone, and probably 4 to 5 times that of Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen.
The European stage offers clubs, their coaches, their players, development opportunities, exposure, status. Of course, it boosts the fan base, the enthusiasm, the excitement of the fan base.
Boardroom stability, player trading, European participation and a huge will to win. Celtic's domination of Scottish football continues. Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland.
Hearts are looking for their 8th head coach since 2014 following the sacking of Neil Critchley at the weekend. Critchley replaced Stephen Naismith in the Tynecastle dugout in October when the club was at the foot of the Premiership. But their 1-0 defeat by Dundee on Saturday was their 4th league game without a goal, and with the team now only 5 points clear of the relegation zone with 4 games to go, they face 11th place Ross County in Dingwall next. These Hearts fans told us their thoughts on Critchley's sacking.
I think, it's a results-based business, and he didn't finish in the top 6, which is a minimum for a team like Hearts.
I think it was the right decision. I think when he first came in, he didn't have a lot of the supporters kind of with him anyway. It's not worked out how we wanted it to, but he nearly got us safe, but the fact we're not mathematically there yet kind of sealed it for him, I think.
I thought it was a slightly strange one, given that he's got a pretty good form record, 15 wins out of 35 or something like that. So, yeah, bit strange, but I think behind the scenes there's obviously something else going on.
Back to scenes of joy now, and Peterhead co-manager Jordan Brown says it was an exceptional day as the Blue Toons sealed the League 2 title by beating nearest challengers East Fife. It meant club captain Jason Brown, Jordan's younger brother, had the honour of lifting the trophy. 32-year-old Jordan and 34-year-old co-manager Ryan Strachan can now look forward to leading the Balmoor side back to League 1 after a 2-year hiatus.
When you share it with a group of the boys that we've had and everyone at the club, and that special day, culminating in winning it in front of our own fans and everyone's families and that there, it's just, words wouldn't do it justice. I think definitely starting to sink in, and the reality of what we've achieved is brilliant.
Ailish McColgan says her mother Liz is happy to have the Scottish women's marathon record back in the family name after she made her debut over 26.2 miles in London yesterday. The 34-year-old finished 8th in the women's race in 2 hours, 24 minutes and 25 seconds. That was not only more than 2 minutes faster than Steph Twell's record Scottish time, which she set in 2019, but also faster than her mum Liz ran when she set the record in 1997. Cheers.
Well, the news at 7 is beginning on the BBC Scotland channel shortly. Laura McKeever is hearing from a GP about the pressures they're facing, the mystery hum disrupting the lives of islanders on the Outer Hebrides, and they're being joined by a special guest.
Hello there, I'm Daniel O'Donnell and I'm here in Glasgow, just ahead of our shows, but you'll hear more about that on Reporting Scotland News at 7. Be sure to join us.
Well, there you go. We get all the superstars on this show, don't we, Chris? You included.
And
really.
The weather will be the superstar this week. Yes.
Love it.
Sunshine and warmth on the way. Not for loads of days, but certainly a good slice of warm weather. And forget the cloud we had today, sunshine and blue sky.
Sounds nice.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening to you. Yes, it's been a bit cloudy at times today, mostly dry, some patchy rain across parts of the far north and northwest. And as we head through the course of this evening and overnight, that cloud tending to thin and break, the rain tending to peter out, and temperatures in towns and cities around 6 to 10 Celsius south to north. Now, tomorrow and for the next couple of days, we have high pressure nearby and we're dragging in some warm air off the near continent. So through tomorrow and Wednesday, heating up, warming up, but then through Thursday and Friday, we see a change in wind direction and temperatures come back down again. There'll be more cloud around too. So this is the picture tomorrow. Initially a bit of cloud around, but that should thin and break and there'll be some decent spells of sunshine on offer for most, but not all. Certainly some cloud across the far north and northern Isles with some showers at times, but elsewhere it's dry and in the sunshine, pleasantly warm, 20, 21 degrees for many areas through central and southern Scotland, up to around 22 across parts of Aberdeenshire. Largely light winds and towards the Hebrides there, 15, 16 degrees, dry and sunny, but the Northern Isles cloudy with rain at times. And then through the course of tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, under clear skies, the odd mist and fog patch around. Still some cloud affecting anywhere really from the Butt of Lewis up towards Shetland, but elsewhere it's dry, and that's the case for Wednesday morning. Lots of sunshine around, and then into the afternoon we'll see the peak of the heat, so quite widely 20 to 22 Celsius, one or two spots 23 or perhaps higher, and a few showers in the north and northeast. And then that change in wind direction I mentioned through the course of Thursday and into Friday, coming in from the west or even northwest, so temperatures coming back down again, low pressure taking over, more cloud, certainly some showers, breezy at times from the west and temperatures around about the mid-teens. And then on Friday, once again, fairly cloudy at times, but largely dry. Temperatures around 15 to 17 Celsius mid-afternoon. The next 2 days, though, sunshine and blue sky. That's the forecast.
Thank you, Christopher. And that is Reporting Scotland. The late news is at 10:30. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.